Hello and welcome to Beyond the Words. My name is Bruno Comba and today my guest is a Localization Program Manager at Square. Her LinkedIn profile says she is passionate about facilitating cross-cultural communication, so she had to be a guest on Beyond the Words. Joining us from Tulsa, Oklahoma, Mariana Attie. Hello and welcome to Beyond the Words, Localization Edition.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Mariana, it's lovely having you on the show. I love your profile because you basically worked on all sides of localization, and that's what we're going to try and explore with you today. You worked for 11 years as an in-house and freelance audiovisual translator on programs with evocative names such as 16 Kids and Counting or When Vacations Attack, before moving to a project management position at Moravia. So what prompted you to change from translation to project management?
Well, I worked at this company for 11 years and basically I didn't have anywhere to grow there. So I needed to do something, I needed to change, and I've always wanted to try the management side. So I started looking online and I found the Middlebury Institute in Monterey, and they had a localization degree, a master's degree in localization. And I tried that, and I didn't know that I was gonna be here and stay here and live here. And now I'm pretty happy here.
Yeah. So when you say here, you're talking about Tulsa or the US in general?
Like look, yeah, in the US and within localization and
And
doing
within
what I like.
localization.
Yeah, I had to make the change. I was 33 years old when I started, but it's never too late to make the change.
Well, never too late. Absolutely. Yeah. And well, I was 30 years old when I changed from sort of a job in marketing to localization. So I had the
Wow.
naivety of somebody who goes into a job like that, and just as well, I was quite naive about it. Otherwise, I would have never done it probably. Um,
Right.
and so at Moravia then was taken over by RWS, and you worked on a number of accounts from social media to sports to gaming. And but I understand you can't name names, but which industry and type of content did you enjoy most?
I'm a gamer. I love video games. So that's the industry where, while I was at RWS, that I liked the most, and basically marketing content like email campaigns or app localization. Um, I helped manage games like Pokemon Go and Harry Potter. So that was pretty fun to see the game online, and hey, I helped translate that in several languages. So yeah, the best one for me was the gaming um,
Yeah, yeah, and the
experience.
marketing side of gaming more than game localization
Right.
was the marketing side. Yeah, especially if you're a gamer. I mean,
Yeah,
it's brilliant if you're a gamer yourself. Are you a bit of a gamer?
I am a gamer. Yes, I have a PS5 and I play a lot. I have a subscription that I can get free games every month. So I'm always playing.
Wow. So it must have been Christmas every day.
You was.
Perfect. Um, and then you sort of the transition from RWS as an in-house at RWS to sort of a sort of resident job at Apple, but for RWS in localization. Now you're the second guest on this podcast who's worked for Apple, and we all know how they strive for excellence, and there's an Apple way to do things, and uh, did that transpire in localization, and what did you learn from the Apple way of doing things?
Well, it was my first experience on the client side, and it was very different than being on the vendor side, the agency side. The agency side, I was more like an account manager, I would say. I had a team of
Yeah.
let's say, localization coordinators under me, and I would, work with billing, pay, the other agencies that would work for us, and it was different. On the client side, I was a really localization project manager, would manage projects basically. And the Apple way of working, they are very mature. In at least the team that I was in, they are very mature in localization, and it was a huge experience for me. And what it helped, when we got the billing from the agency, we would have to look at all the projects and see if everything was working well and if they charge correctly. So that was very easy for me. I would catch errors pretty quick because I had that experience on the agency side,
Yeah.
because I did that. So yeah.
Is it easier when you client side? Because although you obviously Apple have got several ranges of products, but as we were saying earlier at RWS, you were like juggling between different accounts, and suddenly you client side and you're working with just like one company and yes, different type of products, but you're more focused. Was that easier in a way, or was it how is it different?
Um, I wouldn't say easier. It's better. Now you're like dealing with stakeholders, internal
Mm.
stakeholders, different teams. While when you're a project manager on the agency side, you're dealing with the client, and you're speaking to a program manager, or a different person within that account. But when you're on the client side, you deal with multiple people, cross-functional, in all the company, and you have to explain about localization, and you get more involved in projects and what's coming. So that's the difference. And I think the communication and relationship with the stakeholder is what drives me to want to go on and get that success and grow in my career.
Yeah, so you've got stakeholders who are more or less internal clients, when on the agency side you're more like with external clients, I suppose. So that's also a
Right.
big difference. And as you said, the breadth of people that you talk to as your stakeholders is much wider in a way. And
Yeah.
then you transition for good after that sort of period in between at Apple, from agency side to client side, joining a payment tech company, Square, in 2021. But I think we've sort of covered that in the previous questions. But what were the big differences then for you between the two worlds? And maybe like what was the difference with Apple in a way, but what you learned at Apple, was it the same, or was it different again with the stakeholders, the maturity maybe of the department?
When I joined Square, the team was still growing, so I wanted to join a company where I could, help with the growth, and eventually get converted as a full-time employee. And I knew that they had the headcount and everything. It was from Apple. It was the like different environment, like different content. Um, At Square, I am a program manager for e-commerce. So we have like lots of LPMs who manage different content types, I want to say, or programs. We have like payments, we have staff, we have team management. It's different programs that each LPM manages. So um, the stakeholder part, it's like I have much more autonomy at Square than I had at Apple. Apple was a contractor. Although I did speak to stakeholders, I didn't have the chance to grow like a communication style with the stakeholders there. But I did at Apple, at Square.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I I participate in kickoff meetings. They come to me if they have any questions or doubts. And then I have a localization project coordinator who helps me with project translation requests. And the process also is different. The workflows are different. The tools are different from Apple to Square. And I had to learn how to use like CMSs or like design tools that I didn't have at Apple. So it was much more challenging because the team was growing and we had to help, this growth, which for me was amazing.
Yeah, it's you touched on a point there, like the growth as well, because when you're at Apple, it's like very mature, as you said, and things are in place and you know where you are. The great thing about growing companies is that you can make the job your own. And then and you have to be so versatile, as you say. You've got to learn CMS. You've got to learn design tools and these sort of things, because you've got to be able to jump on this and that, because you don't have a specialist to do this and that. And that's also what makes it quite exciting in a way. And what do you think? The skills from agency side, how do they transfer to client side? Is it that versatility?
Yes, and also flexibility. When you're on the agency side as well as the client side, you have to negotiate turnaround times and deadlines. And the way I learned from the agency side is that you have to be flexible. Both sides need to be flexible and understand, if it's too tight, can we try to, for example, deliver like in bulks or like in batches, different batches with different timelines, which language is the most urgent, the tiers of languages. So you learn that on the agency side, and on the client side, you also need to be flexible and explain that flexibility to the stakeholder. And I've learned so much at Square, and all the stakeholders that I do that I communicate with and have a relationship with, they're pretty flexible as well, which is a two-way road that works pretty well.
Yeah. And then you said earlier that you enjoyed working on marketing translations, and I'm curious to know about how you approach marketing translation and transcreation in your day-to-day work, and perhaps a project that's in public domain called Themes that you guys did at Square with different types of themed websites. Perhaps you can tell me a bit more than that, because it looks like the translators had a field day on this.
Oh yeah. Well, marketing content, it's usually public web pages and email campaigns that we have to manage, which I love. Within this like public web pages, we do it in the CMS tool that I learned how to work with, and I'm pretty good at like technologies and softwares. I learned organically. I learned by just doing it, and this is one of the things that I really love to do. Transcreation wise, this project, we've translated approximately 1 million words, and they are basically fake websites where a Square seller, if they have a business, they can go into Square Online and create their websites. And each theme, it depends on what they are. It can be a restaurant, it can be a clothing store, a wine store, etc. They had like words that sentences, like how can I explain this in English?
I think they were lots
like
of puns.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So even before we started translating, and I sent these themes to, our agencies, they were like, can the translators be, creative
Yeah.
and use transcreation to translate this better? I'm like, yes,
Mm.
yes, because these puns sometimes, if you translate literally, people will go like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean anything to me. So they had to be really creative in translating these themes, and it was pretty good. I learned a lot, and it was definitely the biggest project I have ever worked with.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. But as I said, it's it looks it looks great, and yeah, as I said, you can tell. I being a French mother tongue speaker, I went to see the French themes, and you can tell that the translators had good fun working on this and on those puns as well, and did a pretty good job.
That's good. That's amazing. That's amazing. It was big in terms of like translation, and also LQA for this.
Yeah. Wonderful. Talking about that, talking about translating, and being very hands-on. Looking back at your journey, do you get a bit? Do you miss translating sometimes, or do you still translate when you have the opportunity?
No, I don't miss it, and I don't translate anymore. Um, Although I that was my bachelor degree. I did translation and interpretation, English to Portuguese, Portuguese to English. And I knew I wanted to be a translator. I didn't even know that there was such a program like that. But after 11 years translating, and I mostly translated like resumes, at this company because it was a headhunting company.
Okay.
Um, and it kind of got boring.
Mm.
And of course, I helped with those shows, and it was great while it lasted. But I I just didn't see myself translating anymore. And
Yeah.
also, I needed to make more money. I needed to be ambitious and try different things. And I just didn't want to do that anymore. And we're talking like right now, AI is like taking over. Um, and I don't know where I would be if I hadn't come here.
But AI won't do anything like on your content like themes and what you did with themes and all that. I mean, in the near future, will never be able to do something like that. Did you get a bit involved at least in themes? Did you do it in Brazilian Portuguese or no?
No, unfortunately not. Square is not launched in Brazil,
Okay,
unfortunately. But someday, who knows?
never say
They are
never.
going to go there. Never say never. Never say never. So no, I didn't have a chance to do that. I miss working with Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese as a manager, and like looking at the content when it's translated and seeing, I would have done differently here. But I don't miss translating.
Okay, but you don't miss languages because that's my next question and the question we ask all our guests. So Brazilian Portuguese is your mother tongue, and you speak other languages apart from English?
No.
No, but that's still pretty good. The guests on this podcast sometimes are ridiculous. They just speak like 4 or 5 languages. I've got a guest next week or week after who on her CV says she speaks 8 languages. So I look forward to asking her
Oh my
about
God.
that. Uh,
That's a lot of languages.
yeah, because it will reduce the choice in terms of, what new language would you learn and why. So which one would it be for you?
I think I would choose probably Chinese,
Okay.
because I have a lot of Chinese friends, and I wish I could understand what they're talking about, and learning characters. different characters. It's pretty interesting and challenging. I like challenges. Um, so yeah, I would definitely learn Chinese, and I can actually tell, being in the localization industry, I can tell if I see Korean, Japanese, and Chinese. I can tell from just looking at the characters
Yes.
what they are.
Yeah.
Um,
And
so
traditional and simplified is fairly easy to recognize as well.
right. So it's pretty interesting. It's something that I would like to learn.
Yeah. Would that be Mandarin then, the one that they speak in mainland
Yes.
China? Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. We had someone. I did another recording this morning, and the person was between Chinese and Japanese. So we've got a lot of Asian languages at the moment because, well, most of our guests are speak a originally European language or South American language,
Okay.
as far as you're concerned. And yeah, so usually they go for a language that gives them a bit of a challenge. And I think,
Yeah.
that's definitely one of them.
Yeah. What would you learn?
Oh, so basically I was a guest on the first episode of this podcast. And my language was Sinhalese. So that's one of the languages that they speak in Sri Lanka.
Wow.
Yes, because I've got ties with Sri Lanka. My wife is originally from Sri Lanka, and I go there on a regular basis. And my brother-in-law, who is British and speaks a bit of Sinhalese, always impresses me when we want to take a bus to go from one place to another. And he manages to ask people in Sinhalese, whether we're on the right bus or what time it's leaving and all that. And it always impresses me. And I'd like to at least have that sort of level, to be able to get by without just speaking to a phone and then just have the, AI translated for me. I'd like to do the more face-to-face, the more human interaction. So there you go. For me, it was Sinhalese. Nobody on the podcast has come up with Sinhalese since.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's impressive.
Having said that, I recorded that podcast a few months ago and I still haven't started on Sinhalese. So, wishful thinking.
Try Duolingo.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Mariana, it was wonderful having you on the podcast. Thank you very much for sharing your experience and your insights. And I hope we can catch up soon.
Thank you for having me. It was great. And nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
It was pretty good. Thank you so much for the invite.
Bye-bye.
Bye.